Old Nintendo Gamer.
And son.
Like I said, we skipped our recent games, and we're moving already, Nick, flying through this podcast this week, onto a big topic of the week, which is the best of 2020. This is the N-E Café Game Awards show.
Hey, are you gonna finish those? Sorry, they're already gone.
No, they're not. You left the best part.
No, I'm pretty sure they're... cheese.
Hello, Doritos.
Doritos!
Doritos for the bold.
So, unusually, normally we just give out top 10s. This has been, as everybody is aware of, a very unusual year. So we're doing an unusual. I looked at the Keeleys. I was uninspired by the way he was delivering his awards. He did exactly what I told him not to do. He just stood in front of the camera, listed 3 awards, we reeled them off without no pomp and circumstance. And what are award shows for, if not for pomp and circumstance? So we're going to go through, instead of our top 10, we're going to do a top 5 at the end of this show. Between me and Nick, we'll catch up with Greg next week and fly through his as well. We'll have to have Greg's list. But we've got a list as well of categories, just like the awards shows of everywhere else. And we're starting off with the best graphics. I tell you what, I'll go first, then you can go second.
Okay, yeah.
And then the next award, the next category, we'll reverse order. Okay, we'll flick through. So there were a lot of games I played last year, and this, just as another addendum to what we're doing, this is not for games that were released in 2020, because we'd have a very short and repeating list, unfortunately. These are for games that I played in 2020 and Nick did as well. So my best game for graphics was Paper Mario, the Origami King.
It's a good call, yeah.
And yes, people are going, oh, it's very simple, it's in that kind of Paper Mario style, but once you fall into the world, it's hard not to be won over by the visual delight of everything in the game, from the way the corrugated world is put together, from the way that Mario interacts with everything, from the way the water effects, some of the water effects in the game are absolutely spellbinding for a Nintendo game. And the way that everything in Origami is made so that it could be made in the real world, and the way it folds together and unfolds while you are playing is just seamless and sumptuous. What a game.
Well, yeah, I was very impressed with Color Splash. Like, I thought they really took the Paper Mario style to a new level with that game, so I can only imagine that Origami King's even better. I did actually manage to choose only games from 2020 in my list.
Oh, well,
but there are some in there from mid to late 2019. So these are all games that I played this year, and I would say the majority of them released. But my first game for best graphics did release at the end of last year, and it's one that I wish I had put more time into. But so I can't really talk about anything else other than the graphics, and that's Red Dead Redemption 2, which is not a Nintendo game, as you know. But yeah, for me, this one, I've always liked Rockstar's style, and I've said before that I think the GTA 4 art style is just absolutely phenomenal, because it goes for the realistic look, but it's extremely stylized, and it just captures this atmosphere. And I think they've done that again with Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, obviously they're going as realistic as possible, but there's still something that just makes it stand out, that makes it look. I mean, there are times when it just looks real. You know, if you stood at like looking down a valley, or you know, if you've got a nice sunset, or even at night, like the lighting is unlike anything I've ever seen. and just mashed together all the sort of the immense amount of detail, the sort of heavy stylized graphics, and the lighting. It all just comes together to make a really memorable and magical style, I would say. So Red Dead Redemption 2 definitely is a real looker, I think.
Do you have any affinity with like Sergio Leone movies or anything like that, with Clint Eastwood or like Fistful of Dollars? Good,
Never
Bad,
really
Ugly?
seen any westerns, to be fair.
Okay. I do. I hold Once Upon a Time in the West at a high regard, and obviously Sergio Leone movies are inspired by samurai movies from like Akira Kurosawa, like Seven Samurai and Yojimbo. Yeah, one of them, Fistful of Dollars, is just a copy of Yojimbo basically, and that kind of lone cowboy aesthetic appeals to me a lot as well. So yes, I think I would like Red Dead Redemption.
The story, I didn't put this as best story, but I would say what I've played so far has been excellent. So I think maybe next year that could stake a claim for best story. 17, 18 hours, so I've put a fair chunk of time into it, but I don't want to include it in any of those stuff, like in anything else, because I've not seen it to the end really. So, but yeah, graphically, it was one game that really stood out to me more so than Cyberpunk, I would say.
That's good news. And another little addendum as well. We don't have adverts like the Keeleys. So we can just move straight on to our next category, which is the best soundtrack.
This was a tough one because there's been some good gaming soundtracks in the past couple of years, but I've gone with The Messenger in the end. I downloaded the soundtrack to that game on iTunes, and it's been on my phone since we did the Pod Pals. And I think it's an excellent soundtrack. It really captures that 16 and 8 and 16-bit. Not only like obviously with the instruments that are used or the sort of the program that was used to make the tunes, but even the style as well. It captures the whole era so perfectly. And I told you about that documentary, it was a podcast that I listened to with the sound designer. So yeah, easily for me, The Messenger. Unbelievable soundtrack.
I have to agree, it was amazing, and it is my best soundtrack as well. It just stands out, doesn't it? You know, as soon as you enter the first level, and just working through the first part, and the Demon King comes in, and his minion, Bama Thazal, they come in, and then you work your way across to Autumn Hills, and then some of the tunes from every single section of the game is immense. And then just to work your way back from going through those 8-bit tracks and just loving them, and then going back and then having them replayed and re-envisioned as the 16-bit versions.
It's great.
It's really spectacular. Yeah. And on the fly, as you know, later on, you can change between 8-bit and 16-bit zones immediately and have the music blend seamlessly from the 8-bit to the 16-bit as well. Really, really spectacular soundtrack that. And something else nearly got there, but I'm not going to mention it yet, because when I've tried to list I've tried to have a different game basically in every category. I haven't tried to double up anything. Okay. So from me at least, you'll hear a different game. So our next category after that thumping soundtrack, if you haven't downloaded the original soundtrack of The Messenger or haven't played The Messenger, just go and listen to the soundtrack. Blinding stuff. We're on to best retro-themed game. And I suppose this could be envisaged in many different ways. I could mention retro games that I did play, like Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja. I loved that more than I should have. I think it was the Radio Free Nintendo, and James Jones saying, "Oh, that's a bad game." I play now with my son. I was loving it. It's such a nostalgic kick for me, because I played it so much on arcade coin-ops back when I was a young teenager, 12, 13. And to play through it again with my son, and my son was loving it as well. You know, we were laughing, and the little Bad Dudes at the end of the level. And so I could mention games like Metal Slug X, because we never played that one before we played through that. But I've gone for a modern game that grabs the kind of retro vibe, because it was this psychedelic top-down shooter which grabbed me when I played it, which is the Hotline Miami collection. Just for visuals, you know, so we're going for the retro themed. So I've interpreted that as, yes, it's not really a retro game, but visually it's got that kind of top-down 16-bit style aesthetic. What a game.
Yeah.
I couldn't put it down. Seriously couldn't put it down. From not being able to finish a mission, for example, and repeating it 60 times, and not getting fed up or frustrated that I couldn't finish it. Every time I died, it was my own fault. I didn't do that quick enough. I didn't move in. I didn't see that enemy walking around in that room. It was always my fault I died. So you repeat, and get into a level, and every single time you get a little bit further, and even then, I got to try the next level. And after finishing the first game, Hotline Miami, then continuing straight on to the second game and going straight through that as well. In fact, this was before Old Nintendo Gamer and Son was there. I want to play through it again and record myself doing it. You know, it was that good.
Yeah, I loved it. I think I played it in 2016 or 17, Hotline Miami, and I absolutely adored it. Haven't actually gone through the second one, but I did pick it up this year, so I might have to do that soon. For me, like, I also tried not to double up any games, but because this game was so special, it's The Messenger again. And
understandable.
Yeah, I mean, as we said about the soundtrack, the same can be applied to the visuals as well. The way it just captures the SNES look is something I don't think any other developer has managed as well as they managed to do with The Messenger. It looks like a SNES game, 100%. In the 16-bit sections, I mean, obviously. But yeah, just from start to finish, 100%ed it. And I just had a great time with that game.
That's good. Yeah. I didn't 100% it, as we know, if you want to go back and listen to our Messenger pod pals. But what a damn fine game. On to our next category then. Best multiplayer game. You've had much opportunity for multiplayer games this year, Nick?
Online, yeah. I changed my answer to this one a few times, actually. And in the end, I went with a game that didn't win in any other category. And that was Animal Crossing. And obviously, like, it's a great single-player game. I like just, to sit down and chill out with Animal Crossing. But the times this year when I have played it with other people, when we've had, like, a party on someone's island, or we've done a little bit of like visiting each other and trading and stuff like that. It is a great multiplayer game as well. And as you know from our Discord channel, the Animal Crossing chat just never stops. There's lots of people playing Bowser Basher, Glen Ice, Smeagol. They're all in there chatting every single day, and Mark DeRuse as well. So yeah. I mean, it is the best multiplayer because it's easier to communicate. Obviously, using stuff like Discord, voice chat on Discord, or even in the game, it all works. And Animal Crossing is supposed to be a social experience, really, isn't it? So, yeah, it's good, and it's nice, going to someone's island again after a few weeks and seeing how much it's changed or hasn't changed in some cases. Can be quite interesting as well. Seeing new items that you've never seen before or that you don't have. And just
it's also nice on the forums. Beast has just recently purchased a Switch and got Animal Crossing. It's like, how do I finish this game? And then you kind of think, oh, maybe you bought the wrong game then. But you can see that from what he's writing on the forum, you can see that he's falling into it now and getting into that cycle of what he needs to get to do, and that's also quite fun as well.
Yeah, really, there's no time when you should need to jump into Animal Crossing. You can jump in whenever you want, and other people can help you. Like, that community aspect's there as well. My only complaint about it was that it was too slow to start. And I think, when you've got a lot of people who are already quite well developed, you can get through that stage much more quickly. You're not waiting around a lot for stuff. But yeah, it's not my favourite Animal Crossing game, and then there are elements that I've been disappointed with, but as a multiplayer game, it is good. It's a good time, let's say. It's good fun.
I've had a slightly different experience in multiplayer, being that something we were talking about last week is I've been having more local co-op stuff. So played through Borderlands Game of the Year edition with my son and thoroughly enjoyed it. When you're playing through it, you absolutely loving the first game. And then we picked up the second, the sequel, Borderlands 2. I basically 100% did Borderlands 1. My son 100% did it twice. He went through New Game Plus by himself after as well. He was doing it in the background because it is a bit quicker to do it the second time because you're leveled up. And yes, the game does level up, but not significantly enough to slow you down. So we're playing through the second one now. And in every single aspect of the game, it's a better game. Visually, as it's running, it runs exactly the same, 60 frames a second. Oh, it's 30 frames a second, I think, on the Switch, isn't it? Can't remember. Anyway, whatever it's running at, it's as smooth as hell. It doesn't matter what they're throwing at you. But the enemy variety is more. The mission variety is more. The way vehicles handled was a bit of a niggle in the first game. It's been sorted out. The vehicles handle really well in this second game. Yes, it still has little problems of some missions are unclear or what, but they kind of, the map is a better experience this time as well. So the icons on the map, you know exactly where to go. I thoroughly enjoyed myself out with it. It's looter shooter RPG, and sitting down with my son has been a wonderful bonding experience.
Good.
And I'd recommend it to anybody in a similar situation to myself. So we're moving on to the next category, and it is Best Story.
I had an obvious choice for this one.
Really?
Yeah. Which... Or is it you, sorry, first on me?
Doesn't matter, go for it.
Sorry. I wanted to choose Xenoblade 2. But because, it came out 3 years ago and I only finished it this year, I didn't play...
Oh, it was this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I decided not to include that game. So I'm going to go with the Halo Master Chief Collection. Because I absolutely loved the first game on Xbox. And I played a lot of the second one, but it's only really now... I mean, this game also came out late last year, but only Halo Reach launched last year, so the rest of the games all launched this year. And I played through Reach and thought the story was really, really good. And then obviously I've started the first game. I think I'm on the last level of the first game, and I've played bits of the other games as well. But the one thing that I really like about Halo, apart from how amazing the graphics are and how amazing the mechanics are and shooting and stuff like that, is that there's so much depth to the story, and it's not always like apparent. There's a lot of stuff you can find out more, you can read around it. There's lots and lots and lots of sort of external from the game material to go through. But I would say Halo is probably my favorite sci-fi series. I just find the whole world, everything about it is extremely cool. And it's been nice to play through Halo 3, Halo 4 for the first time, really. Halo Reach. I'm also halfway through ODST. I've just been doing it in bits throughout the whole year, but it's one game that I've always kept coming back to and always trying to progress, because there's 6 games there. So I've been doing whatever one takes my fancy, basically. And I just think that sometimes the actual sort of straight narrative of the game isn't that interesting sometimes, but the world building and everything around it is really something that's very rarely done so well on that level, I would say, in movies and in games. So yeah, definitely for me, Master Chief Collection, the whole Halo franchise.
That makes me want to pick up an Xbox now. Suppose I could pick it up on Steam, couldn't I? Is it on Steam?
Yes,
on
and
Steam
it's very cheap as well. It's also on sale at the minute.
Yeah. So my best story. Now, Paper Mario could have won this as well, but I thought I'd go for something different. From Paper Mario, yes, the battle mechanics had problems, but the story was delightful all the way through, and it's because of the funny writing and the puns and everything else that was linked to the story. But there's a nice twists in it, and everything about Paper Mario is wonderful. But I've gone for a slightly more esoteric and unusual one, that this game doesn't tell you its story. It basically suggests its story. And through chapters of suggesting different stories, it links together this girl's whole story. It's what remains of Edith Finch. And I talked about it before, but each chapter is based around a family member. Every family member is now deceased. You find that out early on in the game. And some of them are like there's a child. But she was a child in the house 80 years ago or something like that, she's died of old age. She's your grandmother. So it goes through uncles and aunts throughout the family, and each kind of story is focused on one person, and each story is a completely different kind of mini game. All the way from the imagination of a 6-year-old girl who's in bed one night imagining a tentacled monster under her bed, which then you go out the window as a cat, she's like transmorphing into different animals as she's going along, and then coming back into a bedroom in this fluid motion all the way through this world. And then a cousin, I think it's a cousin, it could be an uncle, but a cousin who has got ADHD, can't concentrate in his work as a tuner packer. But he's good at his work because he's imagining as he's packing. But as the days of packing this tuner goes on, he's just living in this other world where he's a prince, and you're going through this psychedelic world of being crowned a king, and just the variety of little things you have to do in the game, and the way it tells his story, which isn't rammed down your throat. It's all suggestion, Really, really lovely way of telling a story. I thoroughly enjoy that. We were talking about this on Discord as well with, I think it was Bowser Basher wants to pick up a few games. And it basically saying it's a $5 on sale at the moment. It's thoroughly worth £5 in mine. And it's basically the best walking simulator that's out there that I've played anyway.
I've got this on PC. That's one to start next year because it's what, 4 or 5 hours long, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, about 4 to 5. Yeah, it's not a long one. And then we're on to another category: best sports game. This one I will go first, and I haven't played sports games. And I looking through my backlog of what I've played this last year, what I finished last year, and I don't play FIFA, there's no Maddens. I wish I had 2K21 golf, but I haven't. I'll wait until that comes down a little bit cheaper. I'm sure it will do, like all 2K21 games maybe next year. I think of all the games, I haven't played a single sports game except, using sports as a loose term, Ring Fit Adventure.
Well, there you go, yeah.
So, a bit of exercise, yes, it's getting me exercising, so that wins by default. But to be honest, if I had played any other sports game, I think it might be at the top of the shop anyway. As you know, you've played yourself. Very engrossing. You can play it for 20 minutes every morning, like I did, to 30 minutes every morning, or you can put a couple of hours sessions on there, and it gives you a thoroughly vigorous workout, far more vigorous than that plastic circle Pilates ring you'd think you'd get out of it. I've dropped off of it by now, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
me
finished
too.
the entire game 1.5 times through. Didn't get around to the second time. That's my best sports game. I'm thinking your best sports game would be something like 2K Golf.
Well, I've got 3 choices here, really. I've got F1 2020.
Oh, yes.
PES 2021 and 2K Golf. And I'm not going to choose 2K Golf because I haven't put enough time into it, and I started playing it in December, so it seems a bit unfair. And from F1 and from PES, I mean, I love them both, but I think because we have a best racing game category, I'm probably going to go with PES. There's nothing really to say about it. Massive respect to Konami for doing what people have always been asking for from football games, which is just release the same game with an update. Yeah, I mean, I know the reason they did that is because they're working on a new engine for PES 2022, but they actually did it. They actually released an update at a cheap price. So the game is basically the same as last year's, but with all the teams. Correct. But the best thing about it was it didn't matter if you owned 2020 or not. This was the same price for everybody. So it's not DLC, it is a full game. I got it on the Russian store, so I don't know how much it was in Europe, but I think it was €30. Could be wrong there. But it was, I think it was €30. And it's, PES is, as me and Greg have talked about ad nauseum, it's miles ahead of FIFA in every possible way. It looks better, it plays tons better, and it doesn't have terrible DLC mechanics, or what is it, the loot box mechanics. Ultimate Team, they have their own version of Ultimate Team, which I've not tried, to be fair. So, but I'm pretty sure there's no loot boxes in that thing. I know Konami's.
I bet they're not.
Basically a gambling company now, aren't they? Pachinko machines, but
Pachinkos.
Yeah. So yeah, just solid. Like, I've always since PS1, I've been a PES fan, and it's not going to change anytime soon, I think, because by all accounts, FIFA's horrible. And if you contrast PES 2021 coming out at half price to FIFA releasing on the Switch again for the third year in a row with exactly the same game at full price, that tells you all you need to know, really.
I was so put off by FIFA back in the N64 days. I played FIFA 64 and on a demo
64
station.
Was terrible.
Awful.
FIFA 98 was good on the N64. I really enjoyed it.
And then it was PES. I just put PES on N64 all the time, mates.
ISS.
And then I played FIFA on the PS1 with a mate in university. I didn't like that either. Yeah. ISS Pro and ISS 64. They were great. So, yes, FIFA are not going to win any awards with any of us, but we're on to Best Family Game. And I put this category in because it was in the Keeleys, and I thought, right,
what
let's
is
do a
family
proper
game?
family game.
I don't have an answer for this because I don't know what to pick. I mean, you could say Animal Crossing, I suppose. You could say...
Yeah.
I think you'll have a much better answer to this question than me, having played a lot. I think if I'm going to crack, I talked about this 1 hour with Animal Crossing before to try and break down the defenses of the other half and get them gaming. I think if one game will get playing something, then it's going to be Ring Fit. And I've been saying, oh yeah, we should try it sometime. And now that the gyms are shut here, and she's been going 2 or 3 times a week. No, I haven't. I should be, but I haven't. I think Ring Fit is going to be the one that will open the floodgates. Let's say
it shows that your interest of exercise can be gamified.
Yeah,
anything can be gamified.
True. Yeah. So I'm going to get on this. In the new year, I'm definitely going to start playing it again every day. Keep putting it off. So I'm not going to nominate Ring Fit, but I think it would be a good family game for sure.
I came up with 2 basically, which could be implemented into. I'm trying to think about the families as well. Drop in there, and you would have a lot of fun with this. And the first one, which didn't win, was 51 Worldwide Classics.
Yeah.
And the only reason basically it doesn't win is because when you play it in a local situation, there's limited amount of games you can actually play with 2, 3, and 4 players. If there was a greater variety, that would have won. And especially for the asking price. Now, if you're playing online with a couple of friends and all that, fantastic. But, that's taken away from what a family game is. So I was thinking of board games and other things we played. And I think the game that my wife, because she's not a gamer herself, she used to play Mario 64 back in the day, but it was kind of, I think I've talked about this in the past as well, but Donkey Kong 64 she used to get to a hard star and then pass me the controller to do it, and I was playing through Mario 64 twice. Then something she's not really a gamer. She likes to watch games in the background sometimes, especially with my son now. When he's playing a particular game and he's interested in it, she'll watch him on the TV. But a game she did drop into was Drawful 2, and it's cheap on the Switch eShop, and it's on sale at the moment. It's one of those ones that just got into the 2,405 Switch eShop sales there. It's on there. I think it's about a £5, and I think it's worth a £5 if you've got the right local environment. You're basically using the Switch, the TV screen as a main hub for everybody, but you're going to have to use like I'm using my iPad and my son's using his mobile phone, and everybody else has an individual mobile phone to draw, and it's basically like Pictionary, but with a certain specific set of rules, which lends itself to a lot of fun. And in a family situation as well, as you can imagine, in this kind of, is from like the Jackbox games. They tend to be a bit racy at times. You can actually censor it, so some of the suggestive names in the game are omitted, so you can have a blue-free game for certain families. We've had a lot of fun, and even with my wife's English is wonderful, because the game is entirely in English. There's no chance to change it to Chinese, and I'd lose if it was in Chinese, so I'm not having that. Even in English, sometimes even when my wife is like, I don't know what it is, and she's drawing something randomly, it's still, you still laugh. It's a fun family kind of board game, Pictionary game. Really good.
Good.
So moving on to our best first-person shooter games. Right then, let's. I've already mentioned Borderlands as being my best multiplayer game, and Borderlands 2 could quite easily win best first-person shooting game. No hands down. So I've gone for something different, and it's between two games basically. And once again, I'll mention the game that didn't win first. Bulletstorm Duke of Switch Edition. And this is because it actually shocked me how good it was. 1, how good it looks. 2, how good it runs on Switch for looking that good. 3, for the mechanics of this grappling chain that you can grab elements of the, like you can pull something down to land on top of enemies, or grab the enemies themselves and pull them towards you and link those moves into combos. Is really wonderful. But what really sold it to me is its intensity. It's just a non-stop Arnold Schwarzenegger action ride. It's just going all the time. It hardly lets up. You know it's going to let up when you get into a corridor, and yes, you're picking up ammo and all that, but as soon as you get out of that corridor, all hell is breaking loose again. From the variety of enemies running at you to huge spectacular pieces like controlling a Godzilla-esque robot. And I mean, it is like a skyscraper you're controlling to kill enemies in a level, through to riding on the back of trucks and manning a minigun as Mad Max style enemies are coming in on their motors. Fantastic to blast through the game, completely mindless but fun. So the first person shooter game that did win was another one I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. It's Hypercharge Unboxed.
Yay.
And another reason is because it's local multiplayer, and then me and my son start a game, we go click on the online button on the main menu, and then up to 4 people come in and help you have this tower defense first person Toy Story Little Soldiers-esque world, vibrant world. Looks really good on Switch, runs really good on Switch. There are a few frame rate drops now and again when players are joining you and things like that, but what a game. Thoroughly enjoyed my time with that. Dropped off of it, unfortunately, because of Borderlands, but anytime we want to blast, we can just drop in, and there's still an online community,
good,
fortunately.
Good. Well, it's crossplay on the Switch anyway, isn't it? I think you can... Is it?
Oh, that's a good
is it
question.
People
I think crossplay was coming. I don't know if it's come yet.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they did. They said it would be crossplay between Switch and PC, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't know if it's there yet, though.
For me, I've not really played many FPSs this year. I was very pleased at the end of last year, start of this year, when all the Doom games came to the Switch. So the original Doom, Doom 2, Doom 64, I've had a lot of fun with that. Picked up Duke Nukem as well, so I mean, and they're all the classic games. PC, I've got Turok and Turok 2 as well, which, I've put a lot of time into all of those, and I absolutely love those classic FPS games. As you remember, probably I started Doom 2016 on PC because I have it on Switch, and I ended up getting it on PC. And it is a different game. I'm close to the end now. I really wanted to get it finished this year, but I don't think I will. I don't think I'm going to have time, but I'm a level or two away from the end. And I've just had a big boss fight or the first boss fight basically in the game, which took me a little bit by surprise. I wasn't expecting it at all. But yeah, Doom 2016 is everything. After having played the first, second, and 64, like and then we did the pod pals for Doom 3, didn't we?
Yeah.
Doom 2016 is where they should have gone originally because it's so good. But as I said, I don't want to include old games. I've got Doom Eternal, which I'm going to start when I finish 2016. So it has to be Halo again. Halo Master Chief Collection. I've already spoken about it, but the mechanics in that game, I don't think have ever been bettered. There's just something about the way that Halo controls and moves that really clicks with me. I mean, I haven't played a Call of Duty game in a very long time, or a Battlefield game, so I don't know what they're at now, but I think Halo really sort of set the standard after GoldenEye started the real like first-person FPS on console. I think Halo took that idea and sort of developed a control framework, basically, and then it's not really been deviated too heavily from since.
You must be very excited that Infinite is coming next year.
I am. I can't wait, yeah. I think it looks... Well, it doesn't look great, but...
It looks fine.
You've seen the images of Craig, though, yeah?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, from far away, it looks fantastic. The landscapes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's what
brilliant.
I want, yeah. But yeah, I am looking forward to it. I don't know if it will come out next year, that honestly. And I think if it does, it's going to be close to Christmas. But, yeah. I really would like Halo 5 to come to PC, because that's the only one that's missing. But we'll see if that happens. I don't think it will. But yeah, Halo Master Chief Collection.
Okay, picks up 2 awards. Mm-hmm. Well done. Moving on to some best strategy or RPG games. We've linked these together. Anything stand out for you, apart from Xenoblade?
Yeah, Xenoblade, obviously. I haven't played any new RPGs this year. I've played a lot of RPGs this year. Or at least I've started a lot of RPGs this year. I think it's probably turning into my favourite genre very, very quickly. But I'm going to choose Civilization 6.
Nice.
Because the update dropped this year, the latest update, and I've had... like I love the game already, but I think this latest update is really solid. It changes the game a lot, and it gives you special characters, which is something that the base game doesn't have. So you can get, each civilization has its own sort of unique character that can really change the way that the game plays. So I haven't actually spent that much time with the update, but that's a game I'll be happy to play forever. I've spent a lot of time playing 5 as well, and 6, and I definitely prefer 6. There's something about 5 that I don't quite like as much as 6. So started on the Switch, put in about 40 to 50 hours, and I've put another 30 hours I think on PC, and it's fantastic. I love this game. So easily for me, best strategy, Civilization 6.
I've been trying to get my son into Civ 6. He's got that mentality as well where I think he would like it. He's been playing Armello, the board game, which has got strategy elements in it, and RPG elements that you can upgrade with your dice and your cards and all that. And he's really gone deep into that. So if you've ever watched a video of us two playing Armello, especially the more recent one, I think it was like episode 5 or episode 6, these videos are long, he is just talking all the way through, this does this does this, and he knows every and I think, and if you dove into Civilization 6, Morgan, you would really get something really deep out of this game. I hope he does. For me, I did play an RPG this year. I haven't played many RPGs, to be honest, either, but I did play one, and it's not going to win this category. It was Pokemon Shield. Because I played a strategy game. I've gone for the strategy side of this rather than the RPG, and it was the DLC for Wargroove. So it's Wargroove. The winner of my 2019 best game has now won the best strategy game for me. The Double Trouble DLC was added, and I dive deep into that with my son as well in multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
That was good fun. So flying on to best platforming game. I had a little bit of trouble with this one. I just like you with RPG, I'm thinking I haven't played RPGs, I haven't played first-person shooters. I haven't played many platforming games this year. Messenger obviously stands out, and it should be the winner, to be honest. But I wanted something different, because Messenger's already won one of them. Messenger should have been it, but thinking back to what I have played, and this was really early. I believe it's a 2019 game, but me and my son finished this in 2020. We did start it in 2019. It's Mech Extermination Force. Action platformer, basically, with Bertil Horberg, the Gunman Clive developer. He opened his studio up to a few more people in this one, so it's got bigger production values. It's brighter. It's a larger, more... I was going to say it's easier to get into, but it's a very hardcore boss rush battle mode game where you fight through, I think there's only about 9 bosses in the entirety of the game, but each boss offers such a variety in style compared to and how you attack it and how you can climb up the boss. Some bosses you can break panels off of them and then climb up inside them when they got turrets inside and shoot the turrets down slowly and work in. The only kind of thing that doesn't sit quite well in multiplayer, because it's local multiplayer on the screen at the same time, is that when one of you is high up on the robot and one is low, you're zoomed out so far, you're kind of your characters are dots on the screen almost. But apart from that, it's such a well-crafted boss rush game, learning the patterns of bosses and the mechanics to get around, and it builds on it basically. Once you've done the first 3 bosses, it then adds in a new like double jump, for example, and then you carry on, and then it adds in you can grip and climb up walls, and it just adds these little elements in all the way through the game. Very, very enjoyable.
Good. So that's one that I need to pick up, actually, Extermination Force. For me, I haven't really played that many platformers this year, to be honest, either. Like, I would say The Messenger is up there for sure, like you, but I've gone for something different, and I've gone for Super Mario 3D All-Stars.
Yeah.
I had to give it something. No, I'm kidding. Like, as I said, as everybody probably remembers, I was extremely negative and extremely skeptical about this game, but I ended up having an absolutely wonderful time with it, and it was so nice to revisit Mario 64 for the first time in a very, very long time, and revisit Sunshine for the first time since the GameCube. And I just, apart from the last 15 stars, as I've mentioned, in Mario 64, I've had an absolute blast. And it's really just reminded me about the good old days of Nintendo back in the 90s and early 2000s. Nothing to say, just platforming perfection. At times.
I was watching an advert of they recently put up 3 adverts, one for 64, one for Sunshine, one for Galaxy. Galaxy looks so good. I would love to go back and revisit it. Anyway, let's see if the game is still out after the 31st of March. We'll see. So moving on to best racing game that you I think we know your winner already.
Yeah, I've already told you.
Go and tell us.
F1 2021. I keep saying 2021, but it's not. It's F1 2020. Bit of a weird one, this one, because that 2020 season is very, very different to the one we actually got, isn't it? So Vietnam, for example, one of the tracks in the game, is never actually going to be used because they've cancelled the contract with them in real life. But no, I've said it before countless times on this podcast, Codemasters have really come on. I remember playing F1 2010 and 11 on the PS3 and being super impressed with them. I think maybe it was 2010. I think 2010 was the last one I played. And it's just in the space of 10 years, they've transformed it into a really, really, really competent sim. It's arcadey. You can tune it to make it more arcadey or more sim. And when you make it full sim, it comes alive. It's so good. There's so many systems working at the same time, things like tire degradation, following cars in dirty air and stuff like that. They've nailed it. And it's just a shame that this is probably going to be the last one. in the series.
Do you know what they should do? They should release a massive DLC bundle of all the races that happened this year.
Yeah, I was hoping for that.
Montana.
I would have been willing to pay
those,
for it.
And then add them in. I mean,
it would have been great if they could have done that.
Easy purchase.
Because there's some really good tracks that we had this year. But yeah, F1 2020, fantastic. Thank you, Codemasters, and good luck.
I love my races as well, and the only thing that's put me off not buying Codemasters F1 2020 on the Steam is it would take me away from the Switch completely. I think I'd end up just playing that constantly. Yeah. So maybe one for the future. Keep it up, Codemasters, even with your remake. So the only kind of racing, proper racing game that I've played this year on the Switch was Grid Auto Sport, and it did what I needed it to do. I put a lot of time into this. The career mode slowly went through different disciplines, from touring cars to the kind of open wheel cars like F1 cars, in different classes, from endurance races. Everything is fully customizable in the options there. You had performance mode if you wanted 60 frames a second racing, or you had graphics mode if you wanted 30 seconds racing. It worked perfectly in handheld. My only, it did trend towards the more arcade-styled simulation, but it was enough simulation to feel like I was driving around in a BMW or whatever car I had at that time. The only kind of thing that took away from it is the online mode is so sparse because there's no cross-platform. I did manage to get in a couple of races, and but then you're racing against one or two other people, and they're either exceptionally good and how do you go around a corner like that and maintain your speed? Anyway, whatever, you've tweaked your car to perfection there, mate. I mean, they're pulling away and leaving me in the dust. Or there's some idiot who's just crashing into the back of you every corner. So online was not fun. But other than that, I thoroughly enjoyed working my way through the career mode and that. Great. I want to get back into it, actually. So we'll move on to our next category, which is Best Puzzle Game. Oh, it's me first. This is a strange one. I haven't played puzzle games this year. And the game that's won it is the game I just purchased recently and just talked about very recently. Grindstone, already, from its initial kind of learn how to play it, which you can kind of pick up the basics very quickly, but it adds in these roguelike elements of buffing up certain weapons that will help you in game. But these weapons like shields, which if you move into an enemy who's going to hit you next time, you play the shield before you move. The shield then blocks that attack, or blocks one attack, and then you can upgrade everything like the shield's going to be upgraded, so maybe they'll block 2 attacks. And there's many other weapons and other useful potions, customized outfits which do things in certain levels. And from what I can see, everything, depending on what you choose to go into a level, is going to change how you play the level, and then that replayability of going through a level a few times to get the maximum out of it, because there's so much to collect in these tiny, tiny levels. You might not do it the first time, so get back in there, try a different setup, and go through that level again with a different setup and see how you do. It's already, I can see the potential in it. It's a wonderful little puzzle game. So that's my winner already. I've only played maybe 4 hours of it.
For me, the same. I haven't really played any puzzle games this year, and while I don't think it's anything groundbreaking or anything really spectacular, I've really enjoyed Murder by Numbers, which I played mostly at the start of the year. I haven't quite finished it still. I've still got, I think I'm on the last chapter 4. So I've got a little bit left to do. I don't really like to include games that I haven't finished. But Murder Mind, it's just a classic Picross game with a fairly decent story and a fairly decent soundtrack. Nothing really special to say about it. I like Picross games, and I think this one is one of the better ones that I've played, just for the whole sort of extra stuff you have to do investigating a murder and figuring out where to go and what to do next, not just puzzle after puzzle after puzzle, like something like Twilight Princess Picross or something like that on the DS. So yeah, great stuff. Nothing spectacular, but solid.
And a little plug, the N-E Café Excerpts, podcast excerpts, I just put up a couple of days ago.
Me talking about
Murder by Numbers. So that was a nice listen if you get over to the YouTube channel. And moving on to our best action or adventure games. You have many of those to talk about, Nick?
Yeah, there was a lot of choice for this one, but in the end I'm going to go with Streets of Rage 4. Which you'll be experiencing soon.
Got a smile on my face.
But yeah, I'll maybe talk about that in a little while. Streets of Rage 4.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay. Keep it for later. Adventure game, action game. I reckon The Messenger could have won this as well.
Yeah.
So I went for something different. I went something more on the adventure side and something which delighted me for a very short time, which was a short hike. Very, very short game, but I see. I finished what you need to do. The kind of main part of it is get to the top of this hike, get to the top of the mountain. But then it opens up, and I played a little bit after, which opens up. It opens up different areas, basically. It opens up a kind of boat you can get across to different areas as well. Delightful little game which you go around an island doing tasks for the villagers and locals there and slowly building up your stamina meter by purchasing feathers which allow you to float higher or climb higher and then progress up through this to the top of this peak. So even though I spent, I can't remember, it was an hour, 2 hours, about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours playing through to completion, the kind of main story mode. I reckon I could get another hour out of it by pottering around and finishing off some of the little side missions I didn't bother, finding implements or fishing. There's a nice little fishing game in there as well. So yeah, and, for a quick, cheap adventure game, which has DS aesthetics, a short hike is well recommended from me.
Mm-hmm.
This is our last category.
It is.
And I don't know if you have anything to say in this one. I struggled with this one. I really did. It's our best single event of 2020. Something that happened in gaming. Could be personal, could be something that happened to Nintendo or Nintendo did to us. Do you want to get us started on this one?
Do you have anything on it?
I had two ideas.
Mm-hmm.
One was personal. And it's that I finished, surprisingly. And as I started playing many games at the beginning of the year, I thought I was going to hit, 100 game finishes in a year.
That's optimistic.
But I did drop off, yeah. If you look at the 2020 Switch review in year, and they give a breakdown of how many hours you played per month as well, you can see that from about 6 months ago, in the middle of 2020, when Old Nintendo Gamer and Son opened its doors, and I started having a bit more videos there, my game hours declined vastly. So over the last 6 months, I haven't put as much time in as I would want, but I have managed to finish 69 games this year,
well done.
Which isn't bad. I was hoping for the 70, and maybe this week before, I got a couple of days left. Maybe I can finish a quick one off just to hit a round number there. So I'm quite happy with 69.
I think for me, I set my target of 52 games this year.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened to me as well. If I posted on the forum my Switch time. July, it just drops
graph
down. And it's not just us as well, other people as well. I think Dazzy B had the same. And a couple of other people who posted. Something happened in July. We all just stopped playing Nintendo games. But, I think for me... Oh, hang on. I managed 33 games this year out of 52. Which I've fallen short, obviously, of the target. I might try and finish off a couple more in the meantime. But I definitely think I've been more focused this year on finishing stuff than I've ever been. So I'm taking it as a positive. I'll maybe set a slightly lower target next year, maybe 40 games, let's say, not 52. and just try and stick to it. Because usually what happens is I start a game and then I don't finish it. But I've stuck with Xenoblade 2 was like the main one that I needed to finish, because that, 155 hours it took me in the end altogether. But it's just finishing it, and then I've done a lot of smaller games. 100%ed The Messenger. Put a lot of time into Animal Crossing, and these sort of smaller indie games I've tried to beat them. And usually I have done like Undertale, for example, at the start of the year. Super Monkey Ball, Banana Blitz also at the start of the year. I tried to work through them and get them off the backlog, and enjoyed playing them to the end as well. If something didn't stick with me,
you got to be enjoying it, haven't you? Otherwise, you don't want to be finishing a game just to finish it.
Exactly.
A terrible experience.
So I haven't been doing that. But for me, the biggest event of the year, or the biggest single event of the year, is Streets of Rage 4. Obviously, me and Greg have gushed about it on this podcast. Everybody knows that we love it, but I think it showed me why it was so important for me was because it was the first time when Switch, and well, not the first time, but it was one of those massive games. I mean, it's not a massive game, but it was a big release at the time. Everybody was talking about it, and the Switch had absolute parity with every other console, and I think that was really important, and for the Switch. And if we take Streets of Rage 4, and if we take Sonic Mania as well, I think it says to me that it's possible to sort of continue with this sort of 16-bit generation, but still bring it into the modern time. And I think having played that and enjoying it so much, I think it showed me that I don't really need to care about like the latest releases, which is why I was happy to pick up, Red Dead Redemption 2 and Death Stranding after they came out. Like, there are still some big AAA games that I'm interested in, but in general, and the stuff I've been buying on Steam, I would say more than 50% of it is like real retro games from like PS2, PS3 generation. And the rest of it's probably all indie stuff. And then there's the odd AAA game here and there. And I think Streets of Rage 2 was when I sort of confirmed to myself that you don't need a AAA console, PS5 or an Xbox One X. Like, yes, it's nice.
To have fun.
Yeah, to have fun. I still think these indie games, Streets of Rage is a classic series, but the new game pushes the series forward. It brings it into the modern time. There's beautiful art style, taking the original sort of combat system and controls and just making it even better, making it feel even better. And, there's other stuff as well, like Mark of the Ninja that I've played this year. Undertale, obviously, I spoke about, which is an older game, but Ori and the Blind Forest as well, which we did for Pod Pals, The Messenger. Like, this is some of the most fun I've ever had playing games. And yeah, it's okay, it's nice to sit down and play Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, or Cyberpunk, which I have enjoyed both of them so far. But there's just something that doesn't really make me relax in the same way that playing an indie game or a Nintendo developed game does. Like, as I spoke about with Cyberpunk, there's just so much going on. There's so many systems you need to think about. Sometimes I don't want to do that. And while I'm sure it's in terms of story and presentation, it's probably one of the best games of all time, I just don't, I haven't played it because I just don't have the patience for it. Because it just feels like more of an effort to, sit down and play it. But with Streets of Rage 4, I can stick it on for 10 minutes, do a couple of levels, and it's just fun. So hopefully me and Greg will figure out a time when we can do co-op through it. And yeah, I think this year was the year that really confirmed to me that you could, in theory, just own a Switch and have more than enough stuff to play. And the way the industry's going isn't necessarily... Well, we saw the scandal with Cyberpunk. I think it's only just going to continue. And I think if you're an indie studio, I think the future's also looking very bright because I think more and more people are going to get fed up with these disappointing, let's say, AAA games. So we'll see. So it's Streets of Rage 4 would be my biggest single event, and hopefully it's going to continue into 2021. And I think Nintendo themselves are on the right path. I don't think...
And I was going to say, hopefully, Final Fight remake.
Yeah.
Or it's not a remake, it's remaster or whatever.
Yeah, hopefully.
Does something similar, because I do hold Final Fight in high regard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you were saying Nintendo, going in the right trajectory.
I think they are, yeah. I don't think it's worth chasing this. Like, we can see how much money they've made this year, how many sales. This is what enough of the people want.
That was my second point, yeah. Basically 70 million units sold now.
Mm-hmm.
We are not taking into account all the Christmas stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Over 20 million this year, and they haven't put out a really noticeable big game.
Yeah.
Apart from the Mario, Pikmins and Paper Marios. Delightful games in themselves, but yes, they're doing something very special.
The only thing I would like to see more of from Nintendo is more care and attention for all the franchises.
Yeah.
Which is what we've talked about since the GameCube, basically. But so I don't think it's going to happen. But as long as it's okay to keep releasing these ports, these Mario games over and over again, Mario and everything. But I do hope they continue to release something original as well, or something. It has been a slow year, but it's understandable why, and I'm pretty hopeful for next year that we might end up with Zelda and Metroid and hopefully something original as well. But we'll see, I suppose.
We'll be talking about it next week.
Yeah.
So on to our top fives. Did that beat the Keeleys? Tell us in the comments in the N-Europe forum, everybody. And we'll happily give you our answers. Top five then. I'll get things kicked off. Number 5. Now these are games we've talked about before.
Yep.
Everything, because they're well, I'm trying to think. Yes, everything that's in my top 5 obviously has won something in a category before. So my number 5 is What Remains of Edith Finch.
Mm-hmm.
Delightful storytelling. Nick?
Mine is going to be F1 2020. Just because it's the best F1 game and one of the best racing games I've ever played.
So my number 4 is Grid Autosport, carrying on that racing tradition.
Mm-hmm.
The best racing game by far on the Switch.
Yes, for sure.
Seriously, the best serious racer on the Switch.
My number 4 is going to Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's the game I played most this year, 150 hours, I think, which pales in comparison to other people. But yeah, I've had a good time with this game. I've got a lot out of it, and it's it's still going, obviously. So can't not put it in the top 5.
Number 3 for the delightful story and visuals is Paper Mario: The Origami King. Yes, like I said, the battle system slightly let it down a bit because there's no progression for it. It seemed a bit redundant, but the story and everything else with it, beautiful. Number 3.
For me, Messenger is number 3. I know it technically released last year, but yeah, I think if we just talk about, I don't want to say just pure fun, but it was one game that I was determined from the very beginning to finish 100%, and I absolutely loved doing it. There were some really hard sections which were a bit frustrating at times, but usually when that happens to me, I give up. And with this game, I really didn't want to. I wanted to see it right through to the end, and I'm really glad we chose it for the Pod Pals as well. So yeah, the Messenger.
That was a good talk. Yeah. Those seals were difficult. My number 2 is the multiplayer choice of award for me. It's Borderlands 2 Game of the Year edition.
Mm-hmm.
We're still playing through it. I think we've recorded today, because we record basically on the weekend and sometimes in the week. If my son's not too busy with homework, we've recorded up to episode 21 today, and I think we posted episode 10 up. We're always a little bit ahead of the schedule on the YouTube channel. But I don't know. I didn't even know how many hours we put into it, but going by what the first one was and then finding out this is a better game in all respects, yes, this is well deserves its number 2 spot for me.
This was really hard for me to choose between number 1 and number 2. But in the end, I think I'm going to go with Streets of Rage 4 as number 2. Yeah. As I've said, everything I said about 5 minutes ago.
Delightful game. Like I said as well, I can't wait to start playing. So my number 1 of 2020. Yes, it didn't come out in 2020. It came out a lot longer before that. And it was the game I couldn't put down, Hotline Miami collection.
Okay. No, the collection came out this year, didn't it?
Yeah, the collection did. Yeah, I think I believe it did. At least if it didn't, it was late 2019. But yes, Hotline Miami collection. So if it did come out this year, double bonus. Brilliant fun.
And my number 1 also didn't technically come out this year, but most of it did, and it was Halo Master Chief Collection. Just an absolute pleasure to play through some of these games again, and some for the first time. And an unbelievable collection of games. Some of them with redone graphics. Halo 1 and Halo 2 remastered graphics look unbelievable. 4 looks stunning still to this day, even though it's a late 360 game. And it cost me £8. So I can't complain about that. And even like I've switched my Steam store into euros now. It's on sale for, I think it's 20 quid, 50% off.
That's well worth every penny.
It's one of the best collections ever. And the fact that it was in a dire state when it first came out, fair play to 343 for actually, they've really done a good job with it, because I've never had any problems with it. I think it runs great. Could be a little bit better in terms of finding a match quickly. There's plenty of people playing, but sometimes it can take a while. But yeah, every single Halo game, except 5, all the multiplayer, you can install each component individually, so you can just have like the main story from Halo 3 and the multiplayer from Halo 2 installed if you want, and it takes up obviously a tiny amount then. But yeah, great job.
Wonderful. So that concludes it. That's our Game Show Awards. Like I said, tell us what you think and tell us your choices in those categories. We'd be more than happy to have a chat with you on Discord or in the N-Europe forums at the N-E Café thread, and we'll chat with you about why you're wrong. And next week we will fly through them with Greg. We won't get him to talk about the games, but we'll at least his top 5 anyway. We'll see how he goes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I love you, Jeff, and Game Awards. I love games. I love this world. I really love you all from my heart. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much.
Podcast Extras! Extras! Podcast Extras! Extras!
Of course, I am talking about Doritos and tonight's industry icon. We often talk about Doritos on our stage, but for a minute, I want to talk about a great
69.
69. Well done.
Play was coming. I don't know if it's come yet. So I'm quite happy with 69. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like if you've enjoyed our content. You can also check out our other great content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the N-E Café podcast from all good podcast providers. Just follow the links in the description below.